Hi, good morning. My name is Chris Brown. I'm the CEO of Closepoint USA. And today we have a very special episode of celebrating mothers for Mother's Day. And we have three terrific mothers who are also real estate agents who find themselves in challenging positions but always resort to their resourcefulness to overcome those challenges and to manage a work-life balance between a mother and a real estate professional. So today we have with us, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and we're going to start with Keren. Keren, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Keren Gonen, and I'm with Realty Executives up in Vernon, Sussex County, New Jersey. I've been in business for 8 years. I'm a top producer in the industry. I'm also the broker manager of my office under Realty Executives, and I love what I do.
And we also have
Leycaira Martinez. I'm with Century 21, Mack-Morris, Lurie. I've been in real estate since 2019. And I have an 8-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter.
Awesome. And Vicky?
Hi, I'm Vicky Leach. I'm with eXp Realty. I've been in the real estate industry for 3 years, since 2022. And I'm the mom to 3 children, ages 22, 20, and 15.
Awesome. So what's really interesting between the three of you, you come from completely different areas throughout the state of New Jersey. Keren, you're way up north by New York.
I am.
Leycaira, you're out in Old Bridge in Middlesex County.
Middlesex, yep.
And Vicky, you're out in Monmouth?
Nope, I'm in Ocean. Yep, Jackson.
I always get Monmouth and Ocean because they're so
Yep, and I cover
very
both.
much same. And you cover both. Nice. Nice plug. Perfect. So how is it that you guys got into the real estate industry? What got you started? What made you say, you know what? I'm a mom. Now I'm going to jump into the real estate industry. Vicky, why don't you start with you?
Okay. Let me see. I was getting ready, 2021. I was preparing to retire from 25 years in law enforcement. I retired in 2022. And the year before I retired, I started to panic. Like, what am I going to do? I'm still in my 40s. I'm too young to retire, and I need to keep working. So I wasn't sure what I was going to transition into. And one of my coworkers, who's also on my team, has been a realtor for a long time. And he said, hey, come sell houses with me. It's not something I'd ever thought about doing. But when he explained it to me a little bit, I was like, you know what? I like to solve problems. I've always been a problem solver and a people helper, people pleaser. So I figured that was a good way to put those two things together. And I got my license, and I started 3 months before I retired. I started working both. Yeah.
And how did you do with the real estate exam?
It wasn't a problem. Yeah, I passed it on the first time. The only problem I had was math. I'm not a math person, so that part started to panic me a little bit, but I got through it. I passed it. So, yeah,
You're in good
I did
company.
well.
You're in good company, trust me when I tell you. Leycaira, how about you? How did you get started?
Before real estate, I was in the health field. So I always like helping people some way or the other. So I'm not going to say I got tired of the health field, but, I wanted to explore other ways to help. So my husband was into flipping houses and all that. So I fell in love with that part of it. And then I decided to, just go for real estate and help people do the same thing he was doing at the time.
Cool.
Sure. So
And what year was that?
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Well, talk about your first deal. Like we were talking about this earlier. So give some background on what was going on there.
Oh, with my first, right away.
You're right out of the sheet. Out of the chute.
So when I started real estate, what really got me into, my first deal was my close friend of mine. I posted on Instagram. I was a real estate agent. And within 2-3 days, he reached out to me and he said to me, I need you to help me find my house. And I was like, oh, I know nothing about real estate. And he's like, I don't care. You are going to help me. And I just did it. And after that, I fell in love with it and everything.
Awesome. That's one way to learn.
Yes, that's
for sure. Keren, how about you? What was your entree into the real estate as a realtor?
So I'm in real estate thanks to my now fiance. He is a contractor, was a contractor for 25 years.
Okay.
And he had just moved in with me and my kids, which are now 16 and 17-year-old. And he moves in and he says, I really want to flip a house. And I said, okay, whatever. I can't help you, but go do you. And I was working as a CEO for a beauty company in Queens. And I just felt like it wasn't the right place for me. After a year, I said, I have to go elsewhere. So I did quit the job, and then I was just home. And after a few weeks of him trying to look at houses, he had gotten really frustrated because no one was calling him back or texting him. And he has a very heavy Israeli accent. And so he thought maybe that was the reason that nobody was getting back to him, but that was definitely not the case. And then he came home and he was very frustrated and complaining. And I said, you know what, let me take over communication. I had always been in business. I'd always been an entrepreneur. And I said, you know, let me try because I'm professional. I've always done it that way. So why don't I take over communication? And so I did. And after 2 weeks of no one calling, texting, emailing, nothing, I was very frustrated. It was a Thursday night. And I said, I don't understand why these people don't get back to me, and that's not professional, and don't they have to sell a house in order to make money, and da-da-da, and I'm going on and on and on because I'm frustrated. And he looks at me and he says, why don't you just become an agent? And so I did. That night I was signed up for class. The following Monday I started class, and a month later I had my license.
That's awesome. That's a
Yeah.
great way to go in.
Yeah.
Talk about taking the bull by the horns and making it for yourself. I think that's incredible.
Back when I wasn't scared of everything.
Right.
You know.
Right. So each of you are a mother, and I'm curious, how do you balance the demands of being a mom of multiple kids and also being a successful real estate agent? Vicki, you want to go first on that?
Let me see. I've always worked full-time ever since before my children were born. And like I said, I was in law enforcement, so I had pretty much set hours, so I was used to not being home a lot. So for me, by the time I got into real estate, I was no longer working in law enforcement, and now my time was my own. And I could start to work around their schedules and make sure that I was at wrestling matches and make sure I was at conferences when I needed to be, which was something that I had never had the ability to do. So for me, it really works in well with this stage of my life and the stage that my children are at right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
How old are your kids now?
22, 20, and 15.
So they're about to go into their own lives.
Yes. They're still in my house.
They're
but
still in your
yes.
house, right? I know about that. Trust me when I tell you. But they're at that critical part
Yes.
where they're establishing their foundation so that they can move on to their next part.
Right.
Yeah. So and they have a great role model, on the dedication and hard work that it takes.
Yes, that you have to work in order, anything worth having is worth working for.
There you go.
That's what we always tell them. So
Absolutely.
they've grown up with that, and I think that they've all exemplified it a bit in their own personal lives. So we're proud of that.
Good for you. Nice.
Yeah.
Leycaira, how about you? The demands between being a mom and also being a successful realtor. How do you balance the two?
How do I manage it?
Yeah, how do you manage it?
I get organized and I'm flexible. I know it can be very unpredictable, both sides of it. Being a mother is really, we don't know what's gonna happen today. School's gonna call. It's very unpredictable. So I try to get organized and be flexible at the same time.
Okay. So between those two, so is there a consistent day, routine that you have in your day?
Drop-offs in the morning to school. Then I go to the office, make calls, emails, pick up the kids. There's the sports, the sports in the afternoon, so we do that. So it's not always the same, but I get to organize myself and do it.
Cool. So when you're at a sporting game, are you on the phone doing deals, watching the game go on?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
100%, right?
100%, for sure. Yes.
That's the balancing act.
They're
That's
always sending
awesome.
emails, right? Always
Sending
real quick.
emails
Watch
on
doing
the
this.
phone,
Yeah.
negotiating on the side.
On the phone saying, hey, good job.
And my kid is like, Mom, look at me. Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. And how old are your kids?
My son is 8 and my daughter is 10.
Awesome. They're so early on.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's getting busier and busier.
And Keren, how are you balancing with your kids?
I love my Google Calendar. So I block time for their events and things that they're doing. Like my son has a track meet this afternoon at 4 o'clock. I'm going to be there because I want to. But it's always about balancing your schedule, and I'm a master of my schedule. So the hardest lesson for me was to learn how to say no.
Right.
Because I try to do everything and anything I can. I do a lot of charity work, a lot of volunteerism, a lot of networking. So I just have to be cautious and make sure that I maintain the balance, because I get sucked into stuff very quickly. And so I need to find that balance. And my kids are 16 and 17, so it's gotten easier. And when they would get frustrated that maybe I couldn't stay for the entire football game or I couldn't stay for something else, I would say to them, look, I have to do my job. That's the reason we have a roof over our head, food on our table, shoes on our feet. I said, when you're older, you'll have the decision to make whether you want to be an entrepreneur and be a master of your schedule, or if you want to work for someone else and have guaranteed income. But if Ima doesn't work, which is mom in Hebrew, if Ima doesn't work, we don't eat. It's really just that simple. So they've learned how to go with the flow and how to be more flexible.
That's awesome. And they're learning a lesson too.
They are.
Yeah.
And they see me and my partner working very hard all the time, and our entire household runs on real estate. We're both real estate agents, and so they know that on weekends they're not going to see us. We'll make breakfast, we'll leave it for them, and then we'll come back for dinner. But every day of the week we have dinner together. Phones are away for the entire dinner preparation because we make it together. Phones are away for the entire meal, and then they can go and do whatever they want on their phones or anywhere else. And the same goes for us.
That's awesome. Yeah. How old are your kids?
They're 16 and 17.
16 and 17.
Yeah.
I did ask that.
They're big boys.
They're big boys.
Much
really?
taller than me. But then again, I'm 5'2.5", not hard to do.
And they play sports. You said football is one of them?
My oldest Gabriel was playing football for 3 years. He recently decided it wasn't for him. His heart wasn't in it. And I said, I can definitely understand that. And I appreciate you saying, I don't want to do it anymore because my heart's not in it. Because that's one thing that I always teach them. Whatever you choose to do, be passionate about it.
Yes.
I don't care what you do, if it's track, if it's football, if it's, Boy Scouts of America, I don't care. I just want you to be passionate about it, because that's what comes through. And they see how passionate I am about real estate, so they know what that's about.
They get it.
Yeah, my 16-year-old just joined track. He had no interest in any sports for the first 3 years of high school, none whatsoever. And then this year he said, I want to join track. And I said, sure, great.
Go for it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's funny because the whole sports thing, each of you talked about sports and going and being at the field. And I think that's encouraging because in my family, our 4 boys were very active in sports, and people who know me know that very well, and I found that in sports, and maybe you can expand on this, is that they get a foundation of not only just being team, but organizing themselves to getting ready for practice, getting ready for games, the preparation for the big event, as opposed to, just haphazardly letting go and making things happen. Do you think sports in that, light allows for your kids to flourish in terms of their preparation for whatever they're going to be tackling?
I do.
You do?
I do. I totally agree. Yes.
And you push sports.
I do. It's a thing.
It's a thing for you.
Yeah, it's a
That's
thing, yeah.
awesome. And how about you, Keren?
So, and when I was growing up in my household, there were no sports. My dad has 4 daughters, so sports wasn't high up on our level of understanding. And so we moved here from overseas when I was 13 years old. And so we were just trying to survive. We didn't have a lot of money. We moved into a friend's house from Israel. And then we stayed there for about a month before my parents were able to rent out a house.
Right.
And we lived in Fairfield, Connecticut, and they worked in Cranford, New Jersey.
Get out.
120 miles in each direction. So what my sister and I learned from that is that we have to get ourselves up, we have to get ready, we have to go to school, and we have to make dinner, because when we come home, there's no dinner. And not only that, we have to prepare for our parents. And so my kids know that story, and they know all about discipline, because that's very important. Disciplining yourself and doing things outside of sports. So yes, it's great. You have practice, you have meets, you have games, but what are you doing in your spare time to support your craft? How are you refining it? What are you working on? So it's not, I have weightlifting and then I have football practice. It's weightlifting, football practice, then I go home, I do my stretches. On the weekends when I don't have games, I'm doing other things, and that's just as important as participating
Yes.
in the teamwork itself.
100%.
That's what I try to teach them, because I think a lot of people depend on school to do the sports, but it's also a mentality thing. You have to be strong mentally to do sports. Actually, it's anything you do, anything you enjoy doing, you have to be strong mentally, not just physically.
The consistency too. I feel like the more they do it, even when they not practice and meet, they have to do it at home, and that makes them more shape them up for the actual game.
Can I be honest with you? I thought I was the only one who thought like this, because I'm going to tell you, in our household, it is exactly that. The consistency of not just going to practice or a game, everything you talked about.
Yes.
Afterwards,
Yeah.
when they're home, I don't know, did they get their work in? Did they hit, in my case, baseball is a big thing. Did you hit off the tee? Did you do your stretches? Do you do your drills? I think that's a huge, and letting them do it themselves.
Yes.
Right.
And once you get to that point where they're doing it themselves, I've found in sports, that's when the real success comes, because that's when they're passionate.
Exactly.
And-
And my kids know that it's more about your mental strength than your physical strength. Because, for instance, my oldest is reading The Art of War, which is a really good book, not related to football or anything else,
No.
but it's very strategic, and you learn things that you otherwise would not know. And I think that's where a lot of real estate agents are lacking. I'll just wait here for things to drop into my lap. I'll just, fly by the seat of my pants and I'll figure it out. Whereas we have to constantly be working at our jobs, because if you're going to do something, you might as well do it right.
Yes.
And if you're not doing it right, then don't do it at all. And I think, especially during COVID, a lot of people jumped into real estate just because everything was selling. But as soon as the market changed and it got hard, they dropped right out.
It always seems to be that way.
Yeah.
And the ones that did get in that time period, I think they made a commitment to learning how to actually be a business developer as opposed to a business order taker. There's a two totally different. I've been doing this for 26 years. We've closed over 50,000 transactions. I've owned 7 Remax offices, had 252 agents. We're doing 2,000 deals. And I'm going to tell you, it was always that 20% that weathered the financial strife that we had in 2009 going into 2012 that are still doing it today, and they're doing it the same way.
Right.
The consistency, the passion, the planning, the preparation, I found that those professionals will do good in any field that they do because of their mental strength and their ability to be consistent, and it's very powerful. And I know this is about moms and stuff like that, but most of them are moms. And they're able to, if you're able to balance being a mom and a successful realtor and do this.
Well, moms are the ultimate multitasker. You have to be able to multitask just to run a household, or, make sure. I know everybody's schedule in my house, and I can't, not faulting my husband, but not always saying he does. I know who has to be where, when. I know whose car registration is up what month and when they need to have their car inspected, and even if it's not my car. It's just so taking those skills, it's a natural fit to bring it into real estate. Awesome. It's just our natural skill set, and just enhancing it and sharing it. It's just like being a mom.
It's like tidying up the room. Did you do your homework?
Right.
Did you pack your lunch?
Exactly.
Is all your sporting gear in your bag?
100%.
Are you prepared for tomorrow? You have to be on a bus at 6:55.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that.
It's awesome. It's you're right though. It's if you're able to multitask in real estate, that obviously as a mother, but then bring that skill into real estate and time block, which you brought up, because that's huge.
Yeah.
Because you said I drop off the kids and I go to the office. That's your time block. That's when you're focusing on whatever that may be. Most people do their prospecting in the morning and then they build up their foundation of business from there. But that's huge. So that's a big lesson and takeaway for everybody who's watching. I'm going to ask you, what do you what would you give to new realtors who are mom as advice? What is the biggest piece of advice that would you give? Who wants to jump on that?
I can take it.
Shoot.
So my advice is really simple, time block. Because if you don't, you're running late to everything and you're missing out on things. And then, of course, as moms, we have the guilt trip. I didn't make it to my son's this, or my daughter's that, or I can't go meet with a teacher, or I can't go to their sporting event. So if you start time blocking from the get-go, you're already a step ahead of like 50% of the community, the real estate community, because you know where you're going and what you're doing. Just remember to leave time for driving. Otherwise, you'll be like me, where you're gunning down the highway trying to get to where you're going.
So talk about time blocking. What method do you use? What is like, are you just slotting in, appointments and you look at your calendar and just, that's your time block there?
No.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So I have very specific things that go on in my life. I belong to 5 or 6 networking groups. And so I have groups that meet once a month, twice a month, once a week. And so those are always on my calendar and they repeat themselves, so I don't even have to think about it. Then you have whatever office meetings you have, whatever mentoring, because I mentor a lot of agents. I'm always available by phone. However, having a one-on-one of mentoring gives a lot more to the new agent than anything else. And somehow I always get the newbies, which I prefer because they don't have bad habits. And so I can teach them the right way from the get-go. And funny enough, this batch of new agents that I have coming in, they're all clients that I told you should be in real estate because you're a people person, you know stuff, you should just become a real estate agent. The last 3 agents that joined my office were all clients. They've all bought houses with me, or their parents bought houses with me.
Wow.
One of them was actually the first lead I ever got from Zillow. And he just joined my office, which is phenomenal.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So you saw something in that agent.
I did. So when you're an agent, you know what you're looking for. You know who's going to be successful when you've been in the business for long enough, because I have tons of experience with agents that are not nice and not good. You have agents that are in the industry for 30, 40, 50 years. You get their contract and I look at it and I say, this looks like a brand new agent did it. Not all the lines are filled in. There isn't specifications. They don't list the appliances. And I don't have it in me to send it back and say, please fill it out the right way. Because they're older than me, I have respect for my elders. I can't do it. So I try to do it very nicely. But if I train my agents the right way from the get-go, and I always tell them, you're representing me. I trained you and I'm a top producer in our county. You have to do things the right way. You don't have the option. I'll sit with you on Zoom meetings or whatever till 11 o'clock at night. You have to do this the right way. Whereas a lot of people don't do that.
Wow.
And I think that's really important for someone. I'm a go-getter. I've always been a go-getter. I've always started at the bottom and rose to the top because it's how I was raised. I don't know how to be any other way. But some people are not that way. They don't have the drive. I was a single mom with 2 children, barely getting support from the other side, and I needed to do something. So I went all gung-ho. And when I joined, I remember they said that a new real estate agent at the time, 2017, makes 1 sale a year and is given $8,000. How do you live on $8,000?
Can't.
You can't. So I sold 19 houses my first year and
That's
I made
impressive.
$35,000. Still not a lot, but back then, a cup of coffee wasn't $10.
Right.
It was $1.50. So it was a little bit easier. But that's what I try to teach my agents. It doesn't matter where you start. It matters where you end. And this is what your goal is. So show me that you're willing and I'll support you every step of the way.
Nice. That's awesome. Great advice.
Thank you.
Great advice. Vicki, what would you give advice to a new agent who's a mom?
I guess one of the mistakes I probably made in the beginning was being too eager to please people at the expense of my family and my private time. Answering every phone call, answering every email the minute I got it. That's not sustainable because home life is going to suffer when I'm in the middle of a conversation with my child and my phone dings and I look at my phone. That's not the way that I want to live. So I would recommend time blocking is a huge thing. Even for, like you said, making dinners and stuff like that, the phones are off. When we eat dinner, the phones are off. That is our time to be together, and I'm not working deals. I'm not answering calls. So the client will still be there in half an hour. They'll still be there an hour from now. And honestly, if they're not, that's not somebody that I want to work with. I mean, nothing is that make or break where me having a conversation with my husband, finding out about his day, that's the most important thing in my day is dealing with my family. It's, I love real estate. I love working with people, but it has a time and a place. So that would be.
Can I interject for just
Go
a
ahead.
moment? You said it was a mistake that you made. Those are not mistakes. Those are learning lessons. These are stepping stones that you had to learn on your own skin to realize, is this good for me and my family or not? So I try to look at things always in a positive way because I need to. I can't serve, like bad days like this are horrible for my mood. So I try to look at things on a positive note all the time. So it's not a mistake. It was a lesson you needed to learn your own way so that you know what not to do.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's a great lesson.
it was a quick lesson.
But do you know how many people keep pushing through it and say, well, I need this sale, I need this client. And a lot of agents make that mistake because we drain ourselves from all the energy because our home, that's our safe place. That's our sanctuary. But if you let that go, then what do you have? Okay, great, you have deals. What happened to your kids? Where's your husband? Where's your family?
And that's all we do is we're working to sustain our lifestyle.
Exactly.
And if you put your lifestyle in jeopardy,
What is it for?
What is it for? What is all this for?
That's a huge point. That's a huge point. If you lose what you're trying to invest in, what makes it worth it?
Right.
It's a really good point. Leycaira, what advice would you give to a new mom coming into real estate?
A new mom, I would say time management is a key, of course. We have to balance it out. As for help, as mom, we sometimes, I'm stuck in the showing, call their family member, neighbor, help. Ask for help. Help is the key.
One of the sure items of intelligence is asking for help.
Yes, for sure.
To identify what your shortcomings are or your time constraints and being able to help. That's ask for,
Yeah, ask for help.
and not be arrogant or narcissist to say, I can do it all myself. 'Cause that's crazy.
I have learned to ask for help many, many times, that's for sure. I'm stuck in a showing, meeting, and a call, and I'll call my neighbor, my brother-in-law, and my sister-in-law, God bless them. Always on speed dial.
And I'm almost certain that the reverse is also true.
Of course.
They're there for,
For them, anytime. They call me, I can't make it, to get my daughter. I'm right there
Right.
running. Get my kids, get them kids. It's everybody.
Yeah.
one of the important things that I heard all of you bring up is about the type of client you're working with. And you won't work with a client that jeopardizes what your sanctuary is.
Yeah, and your mental health.
So the question is, what method do you guys use to interview your clients when you're looking to take somebody on? What's the client that you say, boom, I'm going to go with that person. I'm going to work hard for them. Keren, you want to start
Sure.
with that?
So I'll work with anybody. And that's a lesson that was very hard for me to learn. I took anybody and everybody, and I would never fire any clients. And it took me a really long time, like a good 4 or 5 years, to say, this is not serving me. I need to change something because this person's giving me anxiety. That person is looking for an investment property. I'm going to be out in, because I work in 7 counties, I'll be out in Union County, 2 hours away from home, and I can't make it for dinner. And now he's adding 4 more houses that he wants to look. So if I designate a day for you, we're going everywhere. The most amount of houses I've shown in a day is 17, but that was rough.
That's rough.
It was rough, but that's the point. It took me a really long time to say, this is not a person I want to work with. And actually the first set of clients that I fired were because of my partner, because we brought them to a house. They used an inspector from down here in a house in Sussex. The guy had no clue how we build up there, nothing about the septics, he knew nothing. And he actually told the buyers that the house is falling apart in the middle, that the seam was opening from the roof all the way down. Now, my partner was a contractor for 28 years. He knows that's not possible. And we had shown these clients for almost a year until we found this house. It was absolutely perfect for them. Yes, needed updating, but fit their budget, great location, really good neighborhood for them. It was a lake community, so people are much tighter in lake communities. And we ended up leaving that transaction. They terminated it. And when I called them back, I said, you should use a local inspector. Happy to recommend 3 of them. Choose whomever you want. They said, absolutely not. This is our family member's inspector. We will always use him. And my partner said, I cannot work with them because this inspector is going to go into every house that he doesn't know and make stuff up because he knows everything. And so those were the only set of clients that I've let go of.
Wow.
It was rough. It was very hard for me to let go. So now when I get people on the phone and it just doesn't feel like a good fit, I'll say something along the lines of, listen, I know exactly what you need. I don't feel I'm the right fit. Let me refer you to blank in my office, which will be a better person for you to work with.
That's smart.
And that I do, but that takes so long. It takes time to get to that level.
I agree. I'm there. I'm trust me when I tell you, after all these years, I have no problem. If I find a buyer, because we close deals, that is just sucking the life out of our organization, and where you're expending so many resources that it's hurting my other clients, I have no problem saying, hey, we're not that company for you.
Right.
You need this, and
that
I
takes
just
a
did that
lot.
recently.
Well, it takes a lot out of you because you theoretically want everything because you know you can, right? Not everything we can do, we should do. So real estate comes with a lot of life lessons.
100%.
And you learn them very quickly because you don't have any options. You're going to be burnt out and washed out in no time.
That's amazing. How about you, Vicky? What are you looking at as a client?
I'm looking for people who want to work with me and don't expect me to just work for them. We're working together to get this done, whether it's buying a home, whether it's selling your home. I was on the job not even a year when I fired my first buyer because he was sucking the life out of me and expected me to, every time he said jump, I was supposed to say how high. And yes, I'll run out right now and show you this house. Meanwhile, I had other commitments. And then he's like, well, then I'm going to find somebody else. I said, good luck. And then he called me a couple of weeks later, and I said, nope, that's okay. I said, it's not worth my time. It's just not. I don't know. I have very low tolerance
For disrespect?
for disrespect. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like I will do anything I can for you if we're working together to get this done. But once you start treating me like, that I'm there for you, that I work for you and I'm supposed to do what you say when you say it, it's not the right fit. I don't work that way. I don't enjoy working that way, and I don't deserve to feel stressed out every time I see your name on my phone.
Exactly.
That's a big point. All of you are shaking your head, yes. Because you all have a picture in your mind of who that person is.
Yeah, we do.
100%.
Happened to me. Same thing.
The person is now listed in my phone as do not answer. I changed the contact name. I have a couple of people like that.
Right.
Fortunately, in the 3 years I've been doing it, there's only like 2 people with that designation in my phone, but because I know it's not worth the stress. It's not. They weren't working with me. They weren't getting paperwork back to me in a timely fashion, yet I was supposed to jump. It's just not worth it.
It's probably strengthened your business
Right.
to allow you not to kill and waste time
Right. On people like that.
and go for people that, like you said, that want to work.
Right. I have much more time for people that I want to work with.
More success.
Yeah. So.
Leycaira?
Same.
What's the question that you, like when you ask a question, and I'm going to change it a little bit here, to somebody, what is like your interview question of the customer? When you really want to determine, do I want to work with this person or not? Because you have to think of that in a couple senses today.
Yeah.
Safety is number one.
Right.
Absolutely.
So is there a question or a telltale?
Usually, I make sure they have like the pre-approval and all that stuff, and then the question will be like, by when do you want to be in your new house? Because I feel when they have a date set, they at least serious about the process, and they really looking into actually purchase the house. So I feel that that's a good question to ask.
Yeah, because if you get somebody wish-washy, it's like, you're wasting my time.
Yeah, if like,
Oh, maybe in 3 months or a year or something like that.
Tire kickers.
Yes.
No time for it.
So I mean, it's not gonna, I also explain that it's not, might not happen, but with, because of today's market and all that. But if they have a date that they want to be in their new house, I feel that they are very serious about the process and the purchase.
I'm going to change gears on you guys. Who in your lives are the most influential person that you would pinpoint to in who you are today? Whether it be a police officer, now a realtor, healthcare, going into becoming a realtor, CEO of medical, shipping and containing, exports, moving in from Israel when you're a young kid. Who influenced you guys the most in your life? You can take your time.
Yeah.
I don't have to take the time.
You know. Go ahead.
So I know that my work ethic and being unable to stay below par comes from my parents, because they've always worked. They were always owners of a shipping company, export and import, my entire life. My work ethic comes from them. But recently, I would have to say it's my fiance who knows when to rein me in, because I have a tendency to go, and overload my plate because I can do everything in the world. And so he's the one that says, look, is that really necessary? Does that benefit our household? Is that going to help you in any way? Because as moms and as women, we all have a pie. What piece of the pie do you want to dedicate to real estate? We only have 24 hours in a day. Which piece of the pie goes to real estate? Which piece of the pie goes to network, to charity? Which piece goes to the family? That's the biggest piece of my pie. And I think a lot of women are unaware of how much time they waste elsewhere. So you really need to sit down and say, this is the most important thing to me. Now, how do I get there? Keeping everything above water at the same time, because even though we all have partners and husbands, we know who runs everything, and that's us. And God forbid, if I get a cold, my fiance says, you have 24 hours. Because in 24 hours, I'm getting sick, and you have to take care of me. That's literally what he says. And then the next day, I know I have to take care of him, so I'm up and running, but I took the day to get better. And when I say I took the day, it means I turned off my phone for 3 hours and took a nap. But that's all my body needed, because it knows it's better. It better keep going, otherwise I'll run it to the ground.
I love that you said your parents, and I can relate to that as well. Leycaira, who's your most influential in your life?
I said same. My mother has influenced me a lot into what I do today. She's a strong woman. She takes no for an answer. She's a congresswoman in the Dominican Republic. That's where we're from. And she's a rock star.
That's a great way to encapsulate your mom. I love it.
She is. She's amazing. Of course, like my husband, he pushed me, but he also sets my grounds. It's like, okay, take it easy. Look what you're doing. Go and have a me time. So all that, yeah. I'll say this, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. Vicky, who's the biggest influencer?
My husband, he's always working. But he's very supportive. And I've known him since I was 19. So we met in college. I was a music major at the time. So then when I switched to law enforcement, he was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, He thought he was going to marry a music teacher, but he didn't. And
I love it.
So then when I was getting
That's
ready,
a big jump, though. I gotta be honest.
It's a big jump.
I'm trying to go into my mind and say, where's the connection between music and law enforcement? And I'm like, unless you're a gangster rapper.
No, I know. Do you remember that show, Cop Rock? Cop Rock was on that show in the 90s. It was on for like one season. But anyway, that's not why. But
So that one show, that one season was an influencer for you to be?
No, I was going to be a music teacher. That's what I always wanted to do growing up. And then I was a music major in college. I was in my second year of college. And then one day I was in front of students doing practicum. And I looked at the students and I panicked. And I said, I can't do ta-ta, ti-ti-ta for the rest of my life. And I was like, that's it. That's when I switched my major. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but the two shortest lines at registration were English and criminal justice. And criminal justice had an autopsy class that you got to go watch an autopsy. So that was it.
That's amazing.
That's where I landed.
Isn't it funny when we're 19? This is the stuff that's swirling around
How are
our
you
head.
supposed to know what you want to do the rest of your life when you're 19? You have no idea. You have no real world experience, right? So anyway, he's been with me since then, and he's been very supportive through all of it. Like, okay, I guess that's what you're going to do now. And then when I was getting ready to retire and I'm panicking, saying, what am I going to do, for the rest of my life? And Jeff was like, do real estate with me. And I told my husband, I'm like, Jeff thinks I should do real estate. He goes, I think you'd be good at it. And he's like, go ahead. He was fully supportive with whatever you want to do. He goes, I know you'll be successful at anything you want to do, and I'm here for it. So that's a huge support. Cool. Yeah.
I think that's really important to have that person at home that support you, that really pushes you to do the best for you. It's incredible. Yeah. It's very nice.
I am the firm believer that if your home life is a mess, your business is a mess. Right. It just doesn't work. Your home, you have to have the structure that you talk about. All of you talked about to go forward in your professional life.
Right.
Because I've seen friends of mine who are incredibly successful, $100 million producers in real estate, big time, and then they had a divorce. Right. And they never got back.
Right. And if you're not happy, all the money in the world is not going to make you happy. It doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't. And everything I think we talked about here is a focus on happiness, because it's so true. When I go to hire anybody to work for our company, one of the biggest things is for me to learn how happy they are. Because that person, if they're happy in their life, they're 35% more productive.
And they're doing something right.
They're doing something right already. That's going to come into the office, and it's new life. So, my last question for each of you, and I read it on the thing, and I really like this one. How do you want your legacy to look like to your kids? How do you want your kids to look up to you when your time has come? How do they want you to be remembered? And I think that's what we're all building towards, So I'm going to let you go first, Leycaira.
I would say that hard work pays off. And if they look at me like, my mom, it wasn't easy. She wasn't there sometimes, but, she made it happen. And I think hard work pays off. That would be, something that I will want them to look at me for. Like, okay, she wasn't there, but she was working and we made it. So that's it.
And you want them to aspire to that.
Yeah, to aspire to that. Integrity too. Integrity is a winner, so that's another one.
Awesome. Vicky?
I want them to see that it wasn't just about work. That although I had a good work ethic and was able to provide for them and enjoyed what I did, no matter what job it was, that I made time for myself as well, which I have to say I've only really started doing in the past few years. Self-care. That's important. And I want my children to see that. I've started re-engaging in music and different activities that I enjoy that are just for me. And they appreciate that. When they see me going and doing things and they're excited about my activities. It's not something they do, but they're excited to ask me about it, and they see what joy it brings me to just go. Like, I'm in a barbershop chorus, okay? It's Sweet Adelines. There's 80 of us in my chorus. Every Thursday night I have my 3-hour rehearsal, and then we were just at regionals this weekend, and they know that's mom's time, and I can go there and just get lost. You know what I mean? It's something that I enjoy. And whereas I've always pushed them to find activities that they enjoy, they never saw me do it. So it's nice that they're getting to the age now where they can appreciate that mom needs this to refocus and balance as well. So I'm glad that they're seeing that and not just the working.
Good.
When it comes to me. Yeah.
Enjoy yourself.
Enjoy
At
myself.
any age, you can still grow.
Right. And then I can enjoy home too, and you bring that renewed focus and that joy with you when you go back home. It's just, they see that. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think they appreciate it.
Keren?
So I tell my kids all the time they are my legacy. when my mom passed away, we were living in California, and we had people flying in from Israel, from New York, from all these different locations. And they came up to me and my sister and they said, your mom helped me do this. Your mom got me out of an abusive relationship. Your mom helped me get a divorce. Your mom helped me start a new business. And these were people in various walks of life.
Right.
I had never known this is who my mother was to them. And that's what I want for my children. When they sit for my Shiva, when I pass away, I want people to come to them and say, your mom helped me start my business. Your mom helped me in my relationship. Your mom helped me do this. That's what I want, because they do see me running around. They don't necessarily know everything that I do and all the charity work and all the volunteerism that they're voluntold to do also. But I want them to see this is what my mom was all about. So when she taught us to go and help at the soup kitchen, or to go and help people at Daisy, which is a domestic abuse and sexual intervention up in Sussex County, when she did all those things, now we understand what she was doing, because they're teenagers. They're not paying attention to me.
Right.
So that's what I want for them. When I pass away, I want people to have a reason to come and tell them this is what your mom did for me, and for everything to click in their mind. Because until that happened, I didn't realize that my mom did all of those. I knew she was doing stuff, but I didn't know anything. And I think when we're growing up, teenagers, young kids, we don't understand everything our parents are doing. It's much later in life that everything falls into place and all the pieces fit, and then we understand.
I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
It's funny, I had such a similar situation where, I don't know if you know, I was in the legislature. I was the budget officer for
poor thing.
the assembly, yeah. This is going back to 2016, and there was a gentleman who I would connect with and have breakfast with, older gentleman who was an engineer, and I got an IM the other day from his daughter. Now he's passed, and she said, I wanted to let you know my father would always want to vote for you because he enjoyed the time together. And I turned around and said to her, I said, I want you to know it was people like your father that would guide me in the way I would do my job in the assembly. And I enjoyed my conversation with him. And it choked her up. She called me and she was very choked up. Because when you get that affirmation of your father and your mother from some stranger,
Exactly.
that's the win. That's when your kids and their friends and hear about these stories, that to me is what I want my kids to say, you know what, my dad did this with this person, or hear from somebody that they didn't know that you did.
Right.
And it was good, and that I think is the way I want to be remembered if my day comes. Well, guys, thank you so much. I think this was awesome.
I think so
I
too.
think it was amazing. I think we're going to get a lot of, he gave a lot of great advice and footage. It's just amazing. It was an awesome conversation, and get to know each of you too. Now I feel like we're bonded or something. We got to do this next year and come back and see how everything's going on. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.